Hello, BookTube. As I mentioned in other videos that I've made today, I'm not really 100% sure of my footing when it comes to making videos for YouTube while war is breaking out in Europe. It doesn't matter how predictable the war is, and I have many predictions about the war. In addition to where it is now, it feels, on the one hand, a little weird to make normal, chatty BookTube videos while such a thing is going on. But on the other hand, I really need to talk. I really need to just break from that constant refreshing of the news feed and talk with you all. I say many times on this channel that I get as much out of this channel as I give, and that is absolutely true. I very much enjoy the personal release of talking to my imaginary BookTube friends. I very much enjoy that. So that, in the end, that balance weighed out in that direction, which is that I'm just taking advantage of your kindness to make videos to distract myself, and maybe you need distraction from the news as well. There are a lot of hours in the day where we're not talking, lots of them, and I, unlike a lot of you, I don't work at a strenuous job. Instead, I work on a laptop, so I'm always a gesture away from checking the news to see stories about airports being taken or villages being shelled or Chernobyl's nuclear plant being commandeered. So I figured I should give myself a break when I can. So I'm making videos today. I'm sorry if that seems disrespectful. It certainly isn't meant to be. But I did a mail haul earlier today, and I did a library tour, but I also thought we'd go through some new releases that span the spectrum between stuff that's already out, stuff that's coming out early in March, and stuff that's coming out way down the line in the summer, spring and the summer. And again, the reason that I'm doing this, aside from today's reason, which is just to have the pleasure of your company, is that some of these things may interest you a lot more than they interest me, and if you know ahead of time that they're coming, you can request them from your library or bookmark them on Amazon, put a hold on them with the publisher, that sort of thing, whatever preparations you have to make. If for instance, I wave in front of you a book that's coming out in the summer that you know for sure that you want, now gives you plenty of time to budget the money for it. So I thought we'd do that. This is a random selection, but I thought we'd do that, and we'll start with a novel. I think this is a debut novel. This is by Conner Habib, and it's called Hawk Mountain. Very nice American cover. This comes out in July. Let's see what we have here. In this book, an English teacher is gaslit by his charismatic high school bully in this tense story of deception, manipulation, and murder. Single father Todd is relaxing at the beach with his son Anthony when he catches sight of a man approaching from the water's edge. As the man draws closer, Todd recognizes him as Jack, who bullied Todd relentlessly in their teenage years, but now seems overjoyed to have, quote, run into his old friend. Jack suggests a meal to catch up, and can he spend the night? What follows is a fast-paced story of obsession and cunning. As Jack invades Todd's life, pain and intimidation from the past unearth knife-edge suspense in the present. Set in small-town New England coast, Conner Habib's debut, okay, this is his debut, introduces characters trapped in isolation by the expansive woods and the encroaching ocean. Sounds really promising. Man meets his former bully, allegedly by chance. You know for sure that it's not by chance, and what spins out from that. So that sounds very good. Then we'll do another summer release. This is June. This is The Golden Acre by Philip Miller. Here we're firmly back to ugly American covers. This yes, this no. Both birds. This yes, this no. But anyway, let's see. What can I tell you about this one here? This comes out in late June. I don't know if this is a debut or not. I don't think it is. No, this is not a debut. This author's written many other books. So let's see here. Equipped with an impressive background as both a poet and a former journalist, Philip Miller is an exciting voice at the intersection of literary and crime fiction. A testament to his poetic artistry, his lush, pensive writing in The Golden Acre conjures vivid imagery worthy of the famous artwork and city, which itself comes to life as a beautiful, mysterious, and even sinister character at the heart of the story. At the center of the Golden Acre are two major investigations, neither particularly interested in rectifying a crime, but both searching for truth in their own way. On the one hand, there is Art Inspector Thomas Tallis, whose the art inspector's name is Thomas Tallis, okay, whose personal life is in shambles when he arrives in Edinburgh to authenticate the Golden Acre, a masterpiece by iconic Scottish architect and painter Charles Rennie Mackintosh. It should be a simple job, as the painting has been owned by one noble family since the 20s. But when a horrifying parcel arrives in Tallis's desk, it's clear that someone doesn't want him inspecting the painting. Then there is Shona Sanderson. Okay, I assume Frida Kahlo was taken then. A battle-hardened journalist hungry for glory in an industry that is shrinking around her. As gruesome murders plague Edinburgh, she jumps on the case in search of gripping headlines. She doesn't care who she steps on to get the best story, and she soon discovers a link between the Golden Acre and the murders. And then their two investigations collide. Okay, great. A little bit too late for March Mystery Madness, but that's all right. Interesting. Okay, so we have parallel plot lines that start anyway. Then the next one, it comes out, I think this is a summer release as well. Yeah, this is June. This comes out in June from Potomac Books. This is The Devil's Toy Box by Andrew Fox. And it's going to introduce to me, a concept that will horrify you. A concept I didn't know about that will horrify you. The concept of Promethean technology. In the sense of the myth where the Titan Prometheus brings fire to humans who have no technological parity with that at all. It's a huge step forward for them, and it's not anything they work to earn. They're given it. A Promethean technology is one that allows someone of average resources, skills, and intelligence to carry out actions that were once only doable by governments, militias, or institutions with considerable resources. Essentially, Promethean technologies allow users to create their own weapons of mass destruction. These emerging technologies are increasingly affordable and accessible, and are no more complicated to operate than a satellite TV control box or a smartphone. Although these technologies are a terrifying prospect, the more we know about these dangers, the better we can prepare to head them off. In this book, the author lays out 7 decades of preemptive analysis and shows that while Homeland Security has explained in depth the possible Promethean threats the world faces, it has failed to forecast the most likely attacks. Using fictional scenarios, Fox teaches how to predict the future threats and how to forecast which ones are likely to be used by bad actors within the next 5 to 10 years. Combining the skills of Homeland Security experts and the imagination of speculative fiction writers, he then offers an analytical method to deter, counter, or abate these threats, rather than adopting an attitude of resigned fatalism. And Andrew Fox has worked for the Department of Homeland Security for 15 years, starting with the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. He is currently a management and program analyst for a federal Homeland Security law enforcement agency. He is also a prolific writer of speculative fiction, including the Fat White Vampire series. Oh my God! Oh my God! I read Fat White Vampire. I thought it was terrific. This is the same guy? Boy, he's become a government agency operator since then. Fat White Vampire must have come out before Hurricane Katrina. That's an older book. Oh, wow. Son of a gun. And it says the Fat White Vampire series, which means there was more than one. I just read the first one. I thought it was terrific. Okay. All right. Well, I was going to wave this around at you because the author has tapped into a terrifying subject here, Promethean weapons. But it turns out the author has a huge amount of credit in the bank of Steve. The last thing in the world I expected until I read the fine print. He wrote a vampire novel that I really, really like. So at least I know that he can tell a story. Great. All right. Well, summer is The Devil's Toy Box. And now, of course, I need to look around and see if there's maybe an ebook copy of his vampire books. Okay, then we have some hardcovers to go through. Just keep in mind, I am indulging myself here. I want a respite from refreshing the news feed. That's all. And I figured talking about books is always good. So I'll show you some more new releases. Since these are hardcovers, I think they will be much more proximate but I don't know how many of them have sell sheets in them. Like this next one doesn't have one, so I'm assuming it's a March release or maybe February. This is I Was Better Last Night, a memoir by Harvey Fierstein, actor who will be known to quite a few of you for any number of different roles. Uh, I love this actor's work. I loved seeing him on stage and then on screen in Torch Song Trilogy. And even in one of my favorite popcorn movies, Independence Day, where I remember watching in the theater and thinking, well, this is a waste. You know, wouldn't it be interesting if he were the hero instead of the comic relief? And at one point, when he is being comic relief, he says a line when the aliens are attacking New York. He says a line to Jeff Goldblum that had me I was sitting in the theater and I was seething with anger. He says, "There's no shame in hiding." Of course there is. Of course there is. And I thought, well, what a horrible line to just stick into a movie. And also, not to beat the social justice warrior drum a little too loudly, but I really didn't like the fact that line would have been unthinkable in any of the movie's other characters and is put in the mouth of a character who is obviously gay. I didn't like that at all, not in the slightest. Jasmine, the exotic dancer who ends up being a hero of the movie, would never say, "There's no shame in hiding." So I was ready to sort of seethe on the subject of Harvey Fierstein in that movie, and then only a minute later, he gets one of the greatest death scenes in all of cinema history, where he sees a huge wave of car flipping destruction headed towards him, and just sinks in his seat in his car and says, "Oh crap." So it was easy to forgive, but he has been in theater forever and has a million stories, and a lot of those stories are very good. A lot of those stories will be in this book. They are hilarious. A lot of the stories that he has, unfortunately, won't be in this book. I know this ahead of time, because books like this always pull their punches. And why? Because the writer of the book has to work tomorrow. The writer of the book has to get another job. So they might, go on The View and say that it's a tell-all memoir, but they're not telling all at all. They're not telling all at all. I guarantee you, Harvey Fierstein has, let's just say, taken on course from a whole slew of actors that you are 100% certain are straight. I guarantee that is the case. And you're not going to learn anything different in this book. But you never know. I have been pleasantly I know that part won't be in it. But I've been pleasantly surprised by celebrity memoirs enough times so that I'll go at it without thinking that I'm going to get just boilerplate. Then this next one is a biography. Actually, we have two biographies coming up here, but they couldn't be any more different. This first one is by Thomas Pletzinger, and I've already read it, and it's brilliant. And I'm the last person in the world who would say that. This is called The Great Nowitzki, and it's a basketball book. Basketball and the meaning of life. I ordinarily scorn such overreaches. Ordinarily, I do. This is about one great player. I know nothing about the sport of basketball except for its intersection with a great era in Boston history. Other than that, I know about the Boston Celtics during one particular time when they had a bunch of great players on their team and were all over the news in Boston. Other than that, I know nothing about the game. Nothing at all. And yet, I was completely taken by this book. Now, I don't know if I have a sheet for this. Oh, I do. Okay, great. I do have a sheet for this one. Let me tell you a little bit more about it and put it on your radar, as the publicists say. This comes out on March 15th. Oh, I'm not supposed to block the bean, in case she wants to show her face. This comes out on March 15th. So you have time to request it at the library or put it on hold at the library, that sort of thing. You have a little time to prepare. If you are a basketball fan, you are going to love this book. But I can also say with 100% confidence that if you're not a basketball fan, you're still going to love this book, because I'm not, and I did. Let's see here. In this book, the author offers a glimpse into the maddeningly difficult climb to sports stardom through basketball legend Dirk Nowitzki, a masterpiece of sports journalism and a work of personal obsession. This book brims with a fan's passion and offers an intimate portrait of an iconic performer. In novelistic detail, Pletzinger tells the dramatic story of how a lanky kid from the German suburbs became a top 5 all-star scorer and NBA champion. Award-winning author and sports writer Thomas Pletzinger traveled with Nowitzki for more than 7 years, seeking the secret of his success and longevity. And he profiles everybody in the player's orbit. He profiles all of the great and not great players all around him throughout his career. Profiles, but the main highlight for me was the way the narrative consistently veers back to what the game means. Not just the people in it, but what the game means. Tremendously good. Just tremendously good. I know it's weird for me to say, but there you go. So that's the other biography, and then we'll do our third and final biography here, and this is one that really fulfills a pattern. I didn't intend it to, but there's a pattern definitely that's forming in my relationship with this particular author. This is The Turning Point, 1851, a year that changed Charles Dickens and the world. This is by Robert Douglas Fairhurst, who has written at least one other book on Dickens. And that is Charles Dickens. And this is a story about one turning point period in Dickens' career. And the sort of trend that it fulfills in my own library is that I have a lot more books about Dickens than I have books by Dickens. And I enjoy them a lot more. This is an author I just find endlessly interesting to read about. I mean, I have books about his time in Boston, books about him as an editor, books about him as a technical writer, contracts, advances, that sort of thing. I have all sorts of biographical studies that I just love. But his novels themselves, the reason for all this hullabaloo, they just consistently elude me. In terms of enjoying, they just consistently elude me. And this could very well be another example of that, a Dickens book that I add to my shelf of books about Dickens without it stirring one more bit of passion for his novels themselves. But let me tell you about this thing. Do I have a sheet for this? No, I don't. But I have a dust jacket here. The year is 1851. It's a time of radical change in Britain, when industrial miracles and artistic innovation rub shoulders with political unrest, poverty, and disease. It's also a turbulent time in the private life of Charles Dickens, as he copes with a double bereavement and early signs that his marriage is falling apart. But this formative year will become perhaps the greatest turning point in Dickens' career, as he embraces his calling as a chronicler of ordinary people's lives, and develops a new form of writing that will reveal just how interconnected the world is becoming. This book transports us into the foggy streets of Dickens' London, closely following the twists and turns of a year that would come to define him, as well as forever alter Britain's relationship with the world. I'm there. I'm totally on board for this. I don't have any kind of sheet for it, but I'm assuming that this is a March release as well. I'll have to find out and put a little slip in there. But this could easily be the umpteenth million book about Dickens that I like more than any of the Dickens novels that I read and reread so regularly, because I know so many of you who love him. I don't know of any other example where that's true. Not to this extent, where reading about the author is more enjoyable to me than reading the author. Then this next one, fairly specialized, won't appeal to everybody, but it's a lot more than I thought it was. This is by from Thames and Hudson. This is by Susanna Ivanich, and this is Catholica, the visual culture of Catholicism, with a naked hardcover there. So very pretty thing. Publishers sometimes don't like to use naked hardcovers because I guess they're thinking there'll be wear and tear to the artwork there. The being taken on and off the shelf at a bookstore will wear this down, rub away the gilding and whatnot. I don't know how true that is, but I tend to like naked hardcovers myself. So what have we got here? This comes out in late May. Catholica. This is a compelling illustrated exploration of the beautiful and eclectic visual and material culture of Catholicism, decoding its iconography, tenets, sites, and rituals. Focusing on a carefully curated selection of Catholic art and artifacts, and exploring the influence of iconography and the mystic power of the range of ritual objects, this book gives readers of all faiths an opportunity to explore and understand the influence of Catholicism. The author identifies hidden visual symbols in paintings and examines them close up, building a catalog of key references for readers to use in interpreting Catholic art and culture. And boy, oh boy, you should see this thing. How incredibly illustrated it is. Here are, for instance, the clothing of all of the different religious orders. Jesuit, Benedictine, Carthusian, Trappist. Here, let's find something else here. Of course, it has on almost every 2-page spread has a piece of classic artwork of some kind or other. But it has lots of other things too. Lots of let me show you an example of, well, is a string of altars, very ornate altars, but also comparative studies. Yeah, here are decorated letters, as in the form that they take over centuries in different countries, in different artistic traditions. Just amazing to me. Just amazing. Here's a whole cycle in all kinds of different art representations of the Last Supper and the Passion and Death of Jesus Christ. And matching that all throughout the book is text that, by an expert to explain it all. Just fantastic. Type of thing that I'd like to think that I would find this just as interesting no matter what the religion was. And that it isn't just conditioned by Catholicism. But this next one, the last one that we'll do today is in many ways the highlight for me, certainly. All these things, these new releases, they could be very interesting. They could be duds. The Great Nowitzki is not a dud, but I don't think it's a keeper. I don't think I'll be keeping it in my biography section. I read it. I really liked it, but I don't think there's more to it than that. But it's very, very rare for in a haul of new releases like this for me to encounter a book that is not only a keeper, but a keeper for my little book room, for the center of my book collection. That very rarely happens on the first time. And this next one is an example of that. This is, believe it or not, a New Yorker cartoon book. Those of you who have been around for a long time have probably heard me be very tedious on the subject of New Yorker cartoons. I think they're great. I love them. They have a separate history from the history of the magazine. And there have been a whole bunch of great books about them. New Yorker used to do tons and tons of collections of them. There have also been studies of the Four Seasons in the New Yorker, of covers on the New Yorker, profiles of artists, many, many themes. And this one is one that I have never seen before. This is by, who did this? Lisa Donnelly, and this is Very Funny Ladies, the New Yorker's women cartoonists. And this takes us from the very beginning all the way to the present day, and gives us the thing is absolutely full of artwork, but also profiles of the artists involved, and that is just fantastic. This is my favorite old style New Yorker cartoonist is Helen Hokinson, who is liberally represented in this book. There are dozens of her cartoons in here. And my favorite modern-day New Yorker cartoonist is Roz Chast, who is also liberally represented in this book. So those two I don't need to learn all that much about, but there are a lot of others that I don't know all that much about. It's going to be fascinating to learn because there's a huge amount of text in here as well. I love books like this. Absolutely love it. I don't know that this has a sheet in it, but that's all right because it's fairly self-explanatory, right? This has photographs and profiles of all of the female artists who have worked on the New Yorker. But it also, I would guess, has lots of history just in general. Because Lisa Donnelly has been a cartoonist for the New Yorker for a long time, so she probably was given access to their archives in order to dig up great anecdotes and things like that for the history of this. Just it goes right. I don't have a sheet for it, so I don't know when it comes out. It's a finished copy, so I imagine it's soon, probably March. And I'm going to gobble it right up, and then it's going to go in my little book room, which is very strange. So there you go. Some new releases. Very self-indulgent of me, but I really appreciate you being there. I really appreciate that. We have Very Funny Ladies, the female cartoonist in the New Yorker. We have Catholica, a heavily illustrated encyclopedia of the visual iconography of Catholicism. We have The Turning Point. The author makes a claim that 1851 was central to Charles Dickens. We have The Great Nowitzki, a living memoir, living biography of a great basketball player. We have I Was Better Last Night by Harvey Fierstein. As you can see, it is a memoir of his long career in the theater. We have The Devil's Toy Box about Promethean weapons We have Golden Acre by Philip Miller. We have Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib, a debut novel. So a nice mixture of new and forthcoming things just to distract us all for just a little while. I'm so tempted to just keep making videos. I had a whole bunch more to do that I want to do. Either keep making videos or just start some random live stream and just keep it going. I'm so tempted to do that. But that would, I mean, there's no time. I have lots to do. And also, it's not, I can't do a 24-hour distraction from the news. So I'm just going to sign off for now. Thank you very much for spending time with me. And I will come back tomorrow. I will try to control myself so that I don't just hopelessly spiral down the rabbit hole of watching the latest updates of the front lines of war in Europe. I just, me obsessing on those frontline details is not going to change those details at all. The only harm it's going to do is to me. Making videos was fun is the short version of what I'm trying to say. Making videos was fun. Thank you very much for joining me. I probably won't make many more videos today, but I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.